Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Reus, founder and chief instigator of Openly Disruptive. We help people build innovation ecosystems, so the systems that get more impact from innovation for your community or for your industry. This video is the third video in a series on how to actually create the product market fit for your ecosystem. And so we're going to dive into that. So first video was about the product market fit. You recall we used the Starbucks example. So we said for Starbucks, Howard Schultz might have thought about Starbucks as bringing together the coffee drinking mass market with his investors, creates a virtuous cycle for capital. The product that he had in the product market fit is he really understood the third place you really want to be, their first store, and a consistent coffee experience. They understood how they could scale it, and that built the fence that was protectable. And he really had this vision of the first global coffee brand. We then take that over because what really needs to happen at this point, early on, you have to have a lot of conversations with a lot of people and figure out what is it that you're doing, what is it of value, and why does it matter. So you actually need a very simple way to package what you're doing so that people can so that you can get meetings with people and have conversations and move things forward. So we just turned this into a Mad Lib. So this is just a very simple 5-node mind map, but now it's a Mad Lib to say for the coffee drinking mass market and our investors, we're going to bring third places you really want to be together with consistent coffee experience to create the first global coffee brand. And that allows Howard or anybody building an ecosystem to go out and say, I've got a small ask. Would you give me a meeting? Would you to talk about how you could be an investor, or how you could be how you could include us in your next real estate development, or how we could be part of your community. So I'm just asking for a meeting. And with that, we need to say why we want a meeting. And we want to not have to have them go through a huge big thing, a business plan and all kinds of stuff. So we just say, would you give me a meeting so I could tell you about how we're bringing together the coffee drinking mass market with our investors to create third places you really want to be and a consistent coffee experience to create the first global coffee brand. You could have lots of conversations this way, very easy, but he's not going to know everything. And then we talked about in the second video in the series, we really dove into, like, once he understands that, he can have all these conversations and he can start understanding where is his starting position and what does success look like, for himself and for all of the stakeholders and all the people he's talking to, and how would that be measured, and what are the obstacles that might be encountered along the way, but what are the opportunities they might see along the way. So then that leads to another worksheet. And that's really thinking about how we're going to get to scale. And so if you think about it, what he identified in that was that maybe there are going to be thousands of Starbucks stores. What would that be like? And so he knows he's got one store right now, and he knows at some point in the future when he's got a first global coffee brand, he wants to have thousands of stores. But what are the eras along the way? And to start to think about, how does he get from one store to 5 stores? When he goes from 5 stores to 100 stores, what does he need to let go of? Because he's not going to want to build 5 different companies. He wants to build the same company that can grow. And so once he's got 5 stores, we can talk about that maybe he realizes that past 5 stores, he's going to really have to let go of the idea of boutique coffee roasting, the way they've been roasting the coffee, or whatever else that he discovers along the way. But what this did was it started letting him think about what is he going to let go of along the way, and build a scale model. So this video, we're going to dive into what is the engine that actually could power from 1 store to 5 stores, from 5 stores to 100 stores, from 100 stores to hundreds of stores, and from hundreds of stores to thousands of stores. And that's the purpose of this video. We're going to dive into what does the level-up engine, so the engine that helps them level up, look like. So we're just going to copy the same things over here. We know that we're shooting for the first global coffee brand. And we know that we're doing that for the coffee drinking mass market and his investors. We're going to skip over the flywheel for just a second. And we're going to talk about what is the product that he brings. Remember what we had behind that? We had the third place you really want to be. And we had this consistent coffee experience. So now, once again, we know that there's nothing new here, but we know what's working, what's resonating, and we've gotten a lot of feedback. And we can start saying, like, let's think about what's the engine that propels us from one level to another. And an engine, one of the things that an engine has is it has a flywheel, so that every cycle, this flywheel keeps turning, and it builds momentum so that it makes it easier and easier to build. So for every cycle of the Level Up Engine's flywheel, we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring the coffee drinking mass market together with the investors to create some new value, right? And we're going to do that using the third place you really want to be. A consistent coffee experience to create the first global coffee brand. So now this is an ideation sheet. So now in all of these conversations and in other conversations that I typically am having with a person like this, we start talking about what are the options for getting those things. And he might say, well, I just need to get a lot more investment. And we might say, okay, so that's just raising more investment dollars. That's one option. And then he might say, oh, well, what I'm going to really do is actually I'm going to have some shared services so that to have some efficiencies as we scale. So as we scale, we'll get more efficient. Okay, that's another thing. He might say, we might brainstorm and come up with the idea that what if he looks at, remember one of the things he said earlier in one of the other videos we talked about, he started noticing how high the margins were. And he might say, oh, well, what we're really going to do is we're actually going to have a plan or a model for reinvesting returns. So we're actually going to have a financial model that 90% of it all goes into this thing, and once they hit a certain level, they open the next store. Or they might say, we're really going to go and we're actually going to produce a playbook for franchising. Or he might say, we're actually going to have, we're aiming to be acquired. Those are all possible things that somebody could say. And if you're building your own, whatever you're building in your community, you might say, oh, well, we're going to do a fundraising dinner that's going to raise the money to pay for this, or we're going to do these pilot projects, or whatever it is that you're going to do. But then you start thinking about what cycle does this operate on? And so we're just generating a lot of ideas. And with people I work with, typically we're generating dozens of ideas to get to some that start to like, wait, these all go together. And so in this case, what we might realize is that the cycle it operates on really needs to be based on same-store sales. So once they get to a certain level, he might realize that same-store sales means that that store is viable and that you can start harvesting some of the returns off of that one to open another store. Or so that might be some metric that's based on that. Or what have you. Now, when we work with ecosystems that are really focused on startups and getting lots of startups going, sometimes if they're an investment fund, it's our first exit event is going to do that. Or when we do our reverse pitch day or we do a demo day, that's the thing that every demo day we want to have, be accomplishing this. But we start thinking about what is the thing that it starts happening naturally along the way. As a way to drive the ecosystem forward. So I work with a lot of people to do this. You can use this in your own ecosystem. I encourage you to reach out to me to think about this. I'm Dan at openlydisruptive.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Dan Reus, R-E-U-S. But what I would really encourage you to think about is what is the thing that you're going to be able to do to get from that initial idea of product market fit that we looked at in the first video, to think about how scale is going to work, and then to think about how you're actually going to achieve that scale, and to make sure that you've got the thought partners and the support that you need to support your vision, that have done this a lot, because many builders like yourself have not built an ecosystem. For many people, it's a once in a career thing, or maybe once or twice. And I would encourage you to reach out to people that have built many of them to help you explore all of the options. That's what I know. I wish you all of the best. I look forward to hearing about your success, and please reach out and connect. And by all means, let me know if I can help you.